Well, it turns out the only thing we needed to do on our internet was there was a reset button on our internet box, and that's all we needed to get our internet was hit that reset button. My mom, we cleared out all the space to have this maintenance guy to come in and work on our box or something. And we went in there and I mean we cleared it out so that we could let this guy get back there. And mom said, "Oh, you know that there's that box on the other side. It has this little button that says reset." I did it, and now everything works. And I'm like, "Oh." So that was all we needed to do in order to get our internet back. You know, things you wish that they, and you talk to the people on the other end that they don't know what the heck is going on, and they can't even. It's really funny. They can't even come in to read it. They could order a maintenance, and when you really didn't even need one. And it kind of makes you wonder if you can really trust people on the other side. Speaking of trust, there there's another problem with this Ukraine matter is that we're responding to this. It's important to respond to it. It's important. If we wish we could stop it, we can't stop it. If we try to, then there's a potential we could start World War III. Um, and the reason for that is because Russia is just too big, and you start fighting with them, and then everybody, all of their allies, start fighting with us, and pretty soon you got a war. Um, Also, keep in mind that there's been genocides going on forever in Africa, and we haven't responded to that. And in that is something systemically wrong with us is that we're racist because we only respond to people that are like us. So Ukraine is such a bigger tragedy because we can see ourselves in position of Ukraine, having this really well developed country just go to nothing by being shelled by Russia. And we respond to that, but then we don't respond in the same way to black people losing their homes in Uganda or wherever in Africa. There's I'm to blame too because I don't even know the places that have been bombed and stuff. Other people would know, but the thing is that if you don't identify with them, if you don't see them as like you, then that's the beginning. That's basically what creates racism is the inability to identify with other people and people of race. So if you don't identify with black people the way you would with the Ukrainians, then that's because you have the inability to. That's because you don't see them the same way. It's racism, but it's not your fault. It's just the inability for you to see them as like yourself, and it's a matter of being able to become more well integrated. And the more poorly integrated you are, the more your country is filled with people that are like you, but not like, not black and not Hispanic. The more of the people that are in your area are more like you and less like somebody from another land. Whenever there's a genocide happening, you're not going to be as responsive to it as you would say for the Ukrainians because the Ukrainians look like us. They speak a different language, but they look like us. And that's the reason why we respond to it differently than, say, if it was happening in Africa to some black people. Haiti, nobody put them in that situation. That was a result of a catastrophe. But still, we've responded to that well because we saw that as a problem that we could fix. We can't fix all the world's problems. The ones we could potentially fix are the ones that are caused by man. And this one in the Ukraine, the terrible thing about that is it's a man that we thought we knew, And when he really showed his real self, what was in his heart, we come to realize that this guy is nothing more, no more different than Hitler. And YouTube's probably going to drop me because of saying the word Hitler. But the thing is that YouTube, if they're going to make decisions upon what I say in my podcast, then how different is that than what Putin's doing with all of his media and stuff? If we can't say Hitler, then we can't talk about the atrocities of Hitler, and we can't compare that man to Hitler. And that's because YouTube doesn't have the capacity to filter out content on its channel because there's just way too many users. They don't have the people to assign to moderating all the people that are on their service. They don't have the money to do that. And so what that requires is that people be vigilant of each other. And so if I said Hitler and people said that there was something Nazi going on here and stuff like that, I could mention all sorts of words and not ever talk about anything of any sort. That would point out that there's something wrong with YouTube. You know, if they try to take down my video, I don't think they will. I think the thing is that they just they have filters put in place that moderate your content, and if you object, then they'll bring in somebody. They'll actually look at your content to see if you did anything wrong. But their general response is to trust the auto moderator, the technology that listens to your. And so the thing is just to object to anything that it might say oh, you're talking something. No, you just don't have the capacity to moderate all the content that's on your service, and that's because you don't have the money to do it. And when you know, because I have some viewership, they'll probably give me a little bit more concern, and they'll look into it. But that's the thing is that why am I so responsive to Ukraine whenever I wasn't responsive whenever it was something happening in Africa or where else in the world that had this sort of thing going on, and I wasn't responsive to it. I was only responsive to Ukraine. Why, you know? And so the thing is that Ukraine's the current flavor of the month of mass genocide, you know, and we're only responding to that because we identify with them more than we identify with somebody that doesn't look like us. And that's racism, basically. It's not the kind of racism you think of. It's the racism that's a part of you. That it's a part of you because you're not well integrated enough to identify with anybody but people that look like yourself. It's the people that are around you that determine who you identify with. And identify with means that when you see them and you see what's happening to when you see the things being bombed out and stuff like that, you see that it could happen in your place. Because it's happening at Ukraine, we're seeing our world being upended virtually. It's not happening here, but it could happen here. And that's driving us up the wall. But why wasn't it driving us up the wall whenever we saw it happening in other countries? And this is kind of it's a lesson being taught to us that we are not well integrated. And then we have the court system where we're not even letting we're not even letting a black lady come in and be a part of our court system. And what's wrong with her? What's wrong with that? That it's that we're not that we're that's racism, you know. And you'll say, well, it's just because she's black. No, you need to have diversity in everything you do. Otherwise, you're going to only treat people that look like you better, and everyone else is not going to be. It's going to be because you identify with them. You imagine yourself being where they're at. But if you look at somebody who's black, you don't imagine where they're at because you don't identify with them. See what I'm saying? It's what your brain does. It's more what your brain does than what you do yourself. Your brain does it before you ever do it. It it conditions you in a way that you make decisions that are based upon um, intuition. The intuition is conditioning you to be racist. It's it's the part of the brain that identifies. It's called it's the empathy, and you will show empathy towards people that you identify with. You see, but you won't empathize. You'll be less empathetic to people that are not like you. You see what I'm saying? And so you need to have that throughout. You need to have diversity throughout, and just by default. And so when you pick people, you don't pick them based on color. Of course, that's racist, but you pick people based upon their merit, okay? And if a black lady has the merit that should put her in a position inside the court system, even if there's somebody equivalent to her of a different race, if you don't see that race inside the court system, there's going to be something wrong with the way people are able to identify with the country. If you're black and you don't see enough black people in your court system, you're going to think there's racism in the country, right? If you're white and you don't see enough white people in the court system, you're going to believe that the country's racist. So the thing is you need to have representatives of all of the races and people of merit in the court system.